Hello and welcome everyone to my vintage audiophile channel. This is now my 35th video. Hope everybody has had a good Easter Sunday and is staying safe and staying well. Today I'm going to talk about the Optimus LX-5 speakers that came out in the mid-90s with the much vaunted Lineum Tweeters that they had in them. They are a great speaker. And Optimus, if you don't know, is Radio Shack. They by this time they were kind of the company that everybody loved to hate, and they were definitely on the downfall, but they still managed to make some good stuff. And this is the first line of the Lineum Tweeters that they made, and they made another one in this line called the LX-10, which was basically a floor standing tower speaker with the Lineum tweeter on top, which I also have. And they are very wonderful speakers. For those who don't know, Lineum tweeters were designed by a company called Lineum, and they had the vision, they had the know-how, but they didn't have the capital. So in order to get their tweeters out there, they partnered with Radio Shack, and Radio Shack produced some speakers with their tweeters in them in order for them to not have their concept die. And with the money they got from Radio Shack, they eventually were able to produce a couple lines of their own speakers with the Lineum tweeters in them. But by then the hype had died down, and they didn't have the capital they had. They went through pretty quickly, and they were forced to go into bankruptcy. That being said, this is, like I say, the first iteration of them. They were dual pole tweeters mounted on the top behind that screen you see up here. It's hard to see them in there, but they are in there, and I can bring this down here to show you that they do in fact have the Lineum logo on them. And it's basically, like I say, a two pole, which means there's two tweeters that are in there kind of going in a full 360 surround sound tweeter configuration, so that you hear the treble all over the place. And then they came with a 5-inch woofer and a pair of small ports. I do have the cover for the other one. I just took it off so you could see what it looked like. I do not know how to take the top cover off to show you better. It does have 4 screws on the top, but when I've taken them off, I can't get the top cover off anyway, so I'm wondering if there's maybe another screw that you have to access from inside the cabinet to be able to separate it. I've never experimented that far to see them, but they look and sound wonderful, so why try to mess with something that you don't have to? They are, like I said, great speakers. Anybody who's heard Lineum will vouch for that. They have a wonderful, smooth, natural sound to them, and the cabinet itself is made out of a really hard plastic that has a good thickness and heft to it. Each speaker probably weighs close to 20 pounds. The top grill is exactly that, a grill to let the sound through, and that is made out of steel. I'll turn this one around so that you can see what the back looks like. It's got your standard mounting for your speakers, and then you'll see here is the logo, which says Optimus Pro LX-5, input 8 ohms, power handling 60 watts, maximum power 150 watts. And it's custom manufactured in Malaysia for Radio Shack. And that's the information that's on the back. I wish I could have these hooked up so you could listen to what they sound like, but if I do play anything through them, then YouTube will pitch a fit because of the copyright laws I will be breaking. So I can't do that right now, but I will tell you that, like I said, they do sound great. This was the first generation of the Radio Shack Lineum Tweeters. They made a couple other generations after that, but they weren't as nice because they went to a single pole Lineum tweeter, and they put that right in front of the unit, right above the tweeter, like a normal tweeter looks like, except it didn't look like anything like a regular tweeter, because it's basically like a membrane that folds in half, so you got like two it's hard to explain, you'd have to see one, but they weren't as nice because, like I say, they're only a single pole and it was directional front firing, so it didn't work as good, but it still sounded good. And they made at least a couple different generations of that, and both regular speakers like this and also some center channel speakers that had the Lineum tweeter in it. They sound equally as good. Right around this time, Optimus kind of went by the wayside as far as their brand name, and they partnered with RCA, so a lot of the other generations would have the RCA logo on them instead of Optimus, but they were made for and by Radio Shack. They just put the RCA logo on it because at that time they were, like I say, phasing out the Optimus brand, and RCA was probably a little bit better known brand, if you could say that, and so they went with the RCA labeling, and they put that on all of their electronics, whether it be speakers or CD players or receivers and the like. But that didn't last all that long either. And by the early 2000s, they had stopped making pretty much audio equipment, period. And now they are the company they are now. For a long time, they were doing the cell phones and stuff like that. And now that almost all the stores have closed, they're more of an online company that's still around, but they do just a small variety of stuff compared to what they used to do. But they're still out there after all these years, since the 1920s, I believe. So kudos to them, but they're nothing like the glory days, especially in the 60s and 70s. They were very well known for having good quality audio equipment. Up until about I'd say the mid 80s, when they stopped making their own stuff that people were making for them, and then for a while there, up until the mid 90s, it was Pioneer that was making their stuff and putting the Optimus label on it. But the Pioneer stuff that they did was not the premium Pioneer stuff. It was just their kind of the entry level stuff that they put their Optimus brand on. So, and that's kind of why the degradation kept on going. But it's still a wonderful lineage to talk about, and it's still a part of the audio history. People look fondly at the especially the 70s and early 80s stuff, and also the 60s, because that was they made some pretty decent, made and sold some pretty decent tube stuff back then. But like anything else, times change, people's tastes change, and if you don't adapt well enough, you don't survive. And they're still surviving, but not anywhere near what they used to be, which is a shame, because I really liked their stuff. I used to go to this store that was by my house as a kid all the time, sitting there for hours and looking at all the stereo equipment and drooling over it and wishing I had the money to buy it, but those days are long gone. So anyways, if you do find a pair of these kind of speakers, LX5s or the LX10s, which are even harder to find, it seems like, don't hesitate to at least audition them and see for yourself what I'm talking about, or if you do audition them or don't audition them and just want to, pull the trigger on them, I don't think you'll be too disappointed with them. If you go online to like different websites that talk about and critique electronics, you'll find lots of threads about Lineum Tweeters, and there's not very many that will disagree with me as far as sound quality and being the best they've ever heard. So if you're into speakers, you wouldn't be put out too much by buying a pair of these. These here, with the way things are today and people going more compact, would make the perfect speaker for your office or for your bookshelf to play your music with. Like I say, you've seen the back. They are easy to hook up speaker wires to, so they'll go with pretty much anything that has speaker connectors on it, and you won't be disappointed. They don't have a ton of bass on them, but then you don't find too many 5-inch speakers that do, but there's enough bass to definitely be there. They don't go down real low, maybe down to about 100 hertz. But when you're talking about a small compact system in an office or an apartment or dorm or something like that, you don't really want too much heavy bass, because you're going to disturb a lot of people who might not necessarily want to be disturbed. So these do make the perfect thing in that particular scenario. Anyways, that's what I have for a review today. Hopefully you like this video. Hopefully it's enough to make you to subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I will answer everything that's sent my way. And until next time, have a great day. Like I said, hope you had a good Easter, and I will see you again in video number 36. Have a good day. Bye-bye.